Let's start with your work at MFA. So you spent 10 years here at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Can you talk a bit about your highlights during your time here?
Wow. Well, one of the key things that I always remember about foreign affairs is really the amount of work that goes into telling people and our partners out there what Singapore is about. The travels that I made gives me a sense that it is important for us to advocate for Singapore's interest. At the same time, Singapore's interest is not just about what Singapore needs, but also galvanizing like-minded partners, like-minded countries who are just like us, who face similar challenges, because when you're out there, there are a lot of negotiations that takes place, and these negotiations are dependent on the size of the voice and how significant that voice is. So one key thing, for example, I remember is the importance of groupings like the Forum of Small States, for example. We initiated the Forum of Small States some 20, 30 years ago with a handful of 20 over countries. But over time, other smaller states realized the importance of the collective voice of smaller states, because sometimes when you have important aspects of international negotiations taking place, you need that voice. And so because of that, Singapore has been seen as an initiator of very important groupings that helps us to advance our own interests and our own causes. The other thing that I found very, very unique is our ability to connect with different countries, and we spend quite a bit of time sharing our experiences with others. This is through the Singapore Cooperation Program, and I am particularly happy with that program because that allows us to share our experiences with many developing countries, at the same time get them to come and see what we are and who we are, and for us to share and of course continue to build relationship with them. Of course, of late, the last 2.5 years since October 7 has been very important when we were dealing with the IH issue, the Israel-Hamas issue from October 7th, and I went to Egypt in February 2023, just a month after, to look at how we can collaborate with our partners like the Egyptians to help with the humanitarian efforts and all. So that the last 2.5 years or so created a significant awareness that we need to continue to engage Singaporeans on important matters of international relations, and things that happen in other parts of the world affect Singaporeans too. And I think that's an important learning point for all of us, that while we are far away, sentiments run deep in Singaporeans' hearts, and we need to appreciate that. We need to show that we understand, we empathize, and connect with them, engage them, and explain what we are doing as a government, as a country, and what we should continue to do as a country.
On that note, how do you see Singapore's role in the Gaza crisis? How do you see Singapore's role now and maybe evolving in the future?
The Middle East has been a very, very complex place to understand in the first place. I've been to the Middle East many, many times since I joined MFA, and even when I was in MINDEF. And each time I go there, there's always something new to learn. The history is very, very deep. And there's so much that had happened in the past that we may not be able to even comprehend what it is today that we are seeing. And if you look at even the Israel-Hamas issue and the Palestinian issue for that matter, it is a matter that has years of history, even centuries of history. But just looking at the international relations perspective, it goes back as far as 1947. The UN partition plan for British mandate Palestine. And that one, way back in 1947, where the international community saw the importance of a two-state solution. And since then, there's been ups and downs, and we've not reached that desired outcome that we all want. There's been, and that just reflects the complexity. the complexity of what happens in just one small part of the world that affects all of us, right? So at that point in time, we saw there are moments of optimism. For example, the Oslo Accord, when it was signed, but then we also saw the premature demise of the leaders of both sides, Ishak Rabin and Yasser Arafat at that time, and the tensions continue to build up. Some level of peace and comes up again and say, oh, October 7 happened. So that complexity is something that we need to appreciate and first understand that it is not something that we can change overnight. There are a lot of stakeholders in the region. I go to the Middle East, I try to understand, I hear from different groups of people. I've been to Ramallah a couple of times. Each time I go to Ramallah, I meet the children, I see the faces of these young children, full of hopes, yet at the same time they look up and they see walls. Yet at the same time, I meet the Israelis and I speak to them too. Each have their own perspective, and what we in Singapore believe is that both sides have the right to their homeland. And that's what the negotiated two-state solution espouses. And we want to continue to have that as the fundamental basis towards the movement as we move forward to find the longer-term sustainable solution for this issue. We've articulated very clearly that although Israel has the right to self-defense, it can only do so and should do so within the ambit of international law and international humanitarian law. And our position, and we've articulated our position, that what Israel has done is beyond what they rightfully should do within the ambit of international law. Yet at the same time, we know that these things affect Singaporeans. What can we do? As early as 2023 November, I've been there to try to see how we can partner community organizations, partners in the region. We've already delivered about 8 tranches of our humanitarian assistance. We continue to encourage negotiations. We continue to have communications with both sides. Minister for Foreign Affairs, Minister Vivian, went to Israel, had meetings with the leaders of Israel, articulated our position, including the point that Israel has gone too far in its actions. We also meet the leaders of the Palestinians. And so what we hope to be able to do is to encourage both sides and the other interlocutors in the region to bring them to the table, to find the longer-term solutions, which I think it is not easy. But that ability to maintain that line of communication has helped us with what we have done so far. So for example, the airdrops of assistance. We are one of the few armed forces or air forces that were given the clearance to enter the Israeli airspace to do the airdrops. If we had not had that line of communication open, we would not be able to do that. We were able to continue to work with our partners, like-minded partners, to find space for humanitarian assistance to go through. Our immediate priority now is to encourage the resumption of delivery of humanitarian assistance to the victims of Gaza. What more can we do? We should continue to work with our partners, encourage Singaporeans to support humanitarian efforts at supporting the victims of Gaza. And we continue to help the Palestinian people rebuild where they can at this point in time. We've been doing it for some time now. We have the technical assistance program, and we enhanced it some years back. We have got scholars who come to Palestine, to Singapore to do their postgraduate studies in our local universities in the hope that they will be able to go back and rebuild the systems and support their people. And we do hope that one day the desired negotiated two-state solution will become a reality.
How would you say the relationship and the perception of other countries with regards to Singapore, how has that changed over the past decade? Has it changed?
Well, we've been known to be a little red dot. but a little red dot that shines, a little red dot that is a reliable partner. We need to know where we stand in the larger scheme of things in the world. And for us to continue to be recognized as an important and reliable partner, Singapore needs to be relevant to the world. As a small country, we can easily be forgotten, not even recognized, or not even known where you are. So we play our part in the international space, first to be relevant, to see where we can contribute. So I mentioned the example of FOSS, the Forum of Small States. We established different grouping. It can be economic, it could be political. We are part of the Indian Ocean Realm Association, for example. That's the IORA. That's the countries that are along the Indian Ocean, because we are a maritime nation. And as a maritime nation, it's important for us to be connected with the maritime states. And we are part of the International Maritime Organization. We always stand for elections for the council, for us to be recognized and to play a role in international affairs. We are an aviation hub, and so our role in the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, is equally important. I think over the years, countries have recognized our contribution. We are seen as not just a reliable partner, but a partner that upholds the rule of law, that articulates and ensures that the rule of international law continues to be respected, sovereignty respected. So when we go for negotiations, when we go and discuss in many different fora, countries respect us and know that we will be able to articulate these very important principles. And they appreciate that, because sometimes when it comes to dealing with many different countries, particularly bigger countries, countries may not have that ability or feel that they are alone. And so when we are able to do that, we are able to show what Singapore is capable of. We also contribute in very important platforms. So for example, recently our ambassador, Rina Lee, she chairs the international, it was a project that looks at the rules of the deep seas, the resources in the deep seas. We call it BBNJ. UNCLOS was also significantly initiated and led by Professor Tomiko at that time. So countries recognize the ability of Singapore diplomats also in leading uncharted territories. So the BBNJ was really uncharted territories, literally resources in deep seas where countries don't have territorial claims. How do you negotiate those resources? How do you make sure those resources can be looked into, and how do you manage the who owns those resources, for example? So the international agreement was reached with, which was presided by Ambassador Rina Lee. So in the last 10 years, I've seen how Singapore has made its mark in the different fora, and we continue to do so. And when I travel, when I meet my counterparts, they always would like to know more. They would like to know more how we do it, how we are able to be who we are. And that's the reason why we have the Singapore Cooperation Program. It is a program that recognizes our own beginnings. We started out as a young nation, being the beneficiary of developed countries who are giving us a lot of support at that time. So we were the beneficiaries of support from other countries, and now that we are able, with the experience that we've acquired, it's our turn to pay it forward. And through the SCP, countries come, leaders come, including senior officials come to Singapore, either go for training, learn more about our systems. But I always tell them that what we have is unique to Singapore. You can see it, take what you can that's relevant to you back home, and we're prepared to continue to support you. And that's how we've been making a mark in the world scene.
Do you see Singapore's role changing as the global environment becomes perhaps more turbulent with the U.S. trade war with China and so on?
I think whatever Singapore does is in Singapore's interest. It's not self-centeredness, but it's just being practical. Being a small country, we need to ensure our survival. Last 60 years, we've learned this very important word, survival. So survivability is critical from the day we gain independence to where we are today. We find our own space, we look for our own space, we find a niche from early years of industrialization to looking at new areas of growth, including R&D, tech, AI, what have you. These are very, very important things that we need to do to find our own niche, to be able to create our own space. Our hub status is also because of that. But we do not do it in isolation. We do not do it in isolation of other countries. So for example, in the region, we supported ASEAN and the growth of ASEAN. When I travel the region, when I meet my counterparts in Indonesia, in Malaysia, in Brunei, in all of ASEAN, I always say a successful Indonesia, a successful Brunei, a successful Malaysia is good for Singapore. And we want to work with you. We want to make sure that we grow together. It's not growing at your expense, but growing with you. And at the same time, through that, through building this trust, we build the opportunities to find space and navigate space. So for example, many talk about the US-China tensions, and we look at that, and we look at other opportunities that will not so much move away from that space, but allows us to put our eggs in other baskets too. And that's why when we talk about the free trade agreements, for example, we go all out. We were the first to have a free trade agreement with the European Union from Southeast Asia. And that's because we knew that there is a big market that we can spread our economic engagements. We have started seeing Africa as an emerging region, and so is the Pacific Islands. We've just been accepted as a dialogue partner of the Pacific Islands, the Pacific Forum. So these are areas in which Singapore continues, and our foreign policy is always looking at space that ensures our interests are protected, our interests are advanced, and we continue to do so. We led in the establishment of the CPTPP. We have the relationship with Latin American countries called the FELAC, the Forum of East Asian and Latin American Countries, for example. All these are multilateral platforms that we initiated, and that's been our foreign policy way of looking at finding our own space, protecting our own space, and creating new spaces for ourselves.
And perhaps on a more personal note, so you've talked about going the extra mile, particularly when visiting countries in our region, and locally. I understand that on the BH podcast you spoke about durian diplomacy and 8i diplomacy, inviting the foreign dignitaries to your house with your wife. So how do you think that this personal touch has actually contributed to Singapore's relations with these countries?
I personally believe that there's nothing more important than sincerity, genuineness, and honesty in building relationships. And it's not just about personal relationships at a personal level, but at every level. So when you engage at the international level, you need to be sincere, honest, and genuine. And that's what I have done over the last 10 years in the Foreign Affairs Ministry. Locally, we don't have our national open house, for example, for Hari Raya as an example. We do open the Istana for Singaporeans to visit, but in terms of understanding the celebrations and all, I used the Hari Raya event and my Hari Raya open house at my home to invite all the different the ambassadors from the different countries, first to genuinely welcome them to my home, to tell them that we are friends at that level, that you come to my home to meet my friends and to meet our friends together. And secondly is also for them to see what Singapore is about. When they meet my neighbors, they meet my friends, they meet my community leaders, they saw a segment of Singapore that they may or may not have the opportunity to. And that's also an opportunity for them to engage Singaporeans, ordinary Singaporeans who they might not have the opportunity to before that. So all these things, to me, sends a message to them that Singapore values our relationship with them right at that level. And so when I travel, I do that too. So for example, my relationship with my Bruneian friends are so deep to the point now that we even attend each other's children's weddings at that level because the trust and the sense of familial ties it has gone to that level. I think it runs deep and it allows us to discuss, negotiate new agreements, new plans a lot easier. Because once you have trust, you know that you are working with a friend. You're not just working with a business partner. You know that these are people who have your mutual interests at heart. And we also look for mutual benefits. And I think that helps a lot in where you talk about international relations.
Moving on to MOE and education, what would you say is your biggest contribution to the education landscape? That's number one. And how do you personally hope Singapore's education landscape will look like? And are we there yet?
I think one of the things that I will leave MOE with a sense of satisfaction, though not complete, is my work, what we call the PolyIT sector, PolyIT sector. When I first came in, I was appointed to chair the committee to review the pathways and opportunities in the PolyIT sector. And I studied the sector very carefully. And particularly the students of ITE, for the longest time, we know that while we've changed significantly what we offer in the ITE, there's always been that image, there's always been that perception that the ITE students are a bit of at the lower strata compared to the others. And I think it's wrong. Because when I went in, and I've always believed that the multiple pathways that we've created simply responds to the ability of students at that point in time. I would say I'm a slow learner. Unfortunately, I didn't get that much variety in pathways. But today, I think it's important for us to create that variety of pathways for students to know that they may develop at different pace and they have different talents. And we want that diversity to acknowledge those talents and to harness those talents. And in the work that I did for the PolyIT sector is premised on that idea. The idea that if you get to ITE, it's not because you are weak academically. It's just that academically at that point in time, based on the system you have, that's your ability, and we will use that ability to harness it even further through the system that we create for you in ITE. So one of the things that I focused a lot in ITE is on the future of the students. What kind of future will you have? What will you get? We start off with this idea that you can go beyond your NITEC and higher NITEC qualification. So the first thing we did was we merged the two. No longer are you expected to perform well in your NITEC, then you qualify for your higher NITEC. We say that the moment you go in, you have the ability and we're confident that you will qualify for your higher NITEC qualification. If you choose to leave after 2 years, we will give you your NITEC qualification because of whatever reasons you want to work, but you can always come back and finish up and get your higher NITEC qualification. That's the first thing we tell them. The message is very clear. You have the ability, right? And we will tailor the program to make sure that you succeed and get your higher NITEC qualification relevant to the industry and contribute to the industry. Secondly is, what do you do after your higher NITEC? That you need to upgrade yourself because you need to constantly upgrade yourself in order for you to be relevant to the future needs of the economy. And that's really where we started the ITE Progression Award 2 years ago. I think it was last year's budget, right? And that's to send the message that we want you to continue upgrading. before the age of 30, if you enroll in the diploma program, you will get your progression award before and once you complete. What kind of progression? Many of them aspire to hold a diploma, but not all of them may qualify well in the Polytechnic. And some, when they go to Polytechnic, they might not do that well because the way their learning styles are different. And that's the reason why in the review, I enhanced the number of what we call the work-study diploma program. The work-study diploma program gives them that sense that I can work, which is the profile of many IT students, because they do come from families that require them to work early, yet at the same time they acquire skills and get better qualification. And the work-study diploma program has shown a lot of success. Many of them coming in, having the qualification in the NITEC or higher NITEC, they are paid as an employee, and we work with the companies to employ them and allow them to go back to school 1 or 2 days a week, get their training in school, apply that knowledge to their work, highly relevant. 2 years, 3 years later, they qualify at a higher level, salary improved, and the salary outcomes are similar to our poly salary outcomes. Now, that's the work that I'm so happy. I see the bright faces, happy faces of many of the graduates that I've met when they've graduated. And I'm happy to note that IT is also expanding the number of work-study diploma programs that we have. We are also working on technical diplomas in the ITE, allowing for ITE to develop full-time diploma programs for students who want to get that technical qualification, but through a different way of learning, rather than just focusing on the way the polytechnics are delivering their curriculum. So this multiple pathways is designed to tell our young people that the education landscape at the higher education level is already recognizing you as an individual with unique potential and capabilities. But what we need to do is to enhance the career guidance to make sure that they know where they are and they know where to go. So once they know where to go, then we can create the opportunities for them. Yet at the same time, we recognize that sometimes you may think that's what you are interested in, but that may not be what you end up feeling at the end when you are inside it. So in the poly sector, we are now allowing more flexibility. Students who go into year 1, so instead of majoring in that field, we allow for common programs now, common engineering, common business. So you are able to try out different aspects, and within the first semester, then you find where your niche interest is, and we develop you from there, right? So you don't lose that sense that I am in the wrong course, as it were. We allow them flexibility to take time out to do entrepreneurship, to take time out to go and travel and do something and learn a little bit more and come back and continue, right? So in the PolyIT sector, we've done major revamp to allow for that flexibility. And that's in line with what we are seeing in the future. Because the future is one where skills upgrading is a part of life. It's something that you need to be able to continue to and be ready for. And so if we start them early, we hope that the trajectory is more positive for them. So that's one of the things that I am very, very happy about. The other part, quickly, that I've done, what I've done in MOE that I feel satisfied is the sector of the special education needs sector. Now that sector, when I first came in, I used to be in MCYS at that time. And at that time, they were looking at the special education needs sector as a social sector requirement, not an education development part. So by the time I came to MOE, I was very, very impressed to know that MOE schools take in 80% of children with special education needs. Now that's very, very demanding. But because of inclusivity, it's because of compulsory education, it's because of commitment. So what I did subsequently then is to continue to harness MOE's ability in the mainstream schools to support with more resources, teachers, special needs teachers, at the same time bring up the special needs sector. And so we have put in resources, and I articulated our investments in those sectors, leveling up teachers, providing more resources for the teachers, putting in systems in place, supporting the schools so that they can level up their abilities also. Because we believe that every child, even with special needs, have the ability to harness their potential to the best of their ability. And we do want to do that. And I think we can do more still because more needs to be done. One of the challenges of the sector is manpower. We need to encourage more people to be prepared to enter that sector. And we are already creating an ecosystem that's supportive of people coming into the sector. And I hope more will come in.
In your years of political career, you've been in various ministries. Which would you say was the most memorable one for you, that you found most meaning and that is your favorite in that sense?
Hard to say, because each one of them has a different function. But more importantly is what I can do in each of the ministry that I've been in, and what I could contribute. So one of the things that I found closest to me was when I was at MND, and I was overseeing housing issues. And the social worker in me just resonated with issues of people living in rental flats, challenges of housing. And we also saw some of these things happening at that time, particularly during the Asian financial crisis. And one of the most meaningful experiences I've had was when I was in MND and I was dealing with these challenges of Singaporeans who lost their homes because of inability to continue to pay their mortgages. And at that time, I don't know whether you recall, there were stories of Singaporeans staying in the beaches, void deck spaces. There was an ST article that says the Singaporean nomads, in the sense because they were moving from one place to the other. I was very concerned at that time. And I remember Minister for MND, Mr. Mabautan, tasked me to look at this issue, address this issue. And I felt very strongly because I cannot see the children just being on the beaches. They were not going to school at that time. So what I did was I found two blocks of flats in Bedok South at that time for them to be moved to live as interim rental housing at that time. Then I was an MP at Sembawang GRC, Didn't realize that when I moved to East Coast GRC, then at my MPS, families start coming to see me with all these housing issues and all these challenges. I was like, where did these families come from? I realized they came from Block 46 and Block 50 of Bedok South. And they were the families that I was rehousing. And I realized that it is more than a housing issue for them. It's an issue of the many social challenges that they face. Divorce, lack of parental supervision, substance abuse, mental health problems, even domestic violence. There was a lot. And I happened to be the mayor of South East District at that time. And so I blended my role at MND, I blended my role as a mayor, and created an ecosystem of support for these families, including establishing a support center, a social service center just next to the blocks which was in my CC at that time. And we helped each and every case. Each and every case, we looked at every one of them. I had social workers employed to look at them. For over 5 years, children who didn't have a place to stay had proper structured education support, had volunteers help them. I had families who didn't have jobs. We helped them with jobs through job fairs, job counseling and all. I had families with domestic violence issues attended to. And after 5 years, we managed to rehouse 1,000 families. It's called Project 4650. The amount of work that we put inside there showed the intensity required to connect with people with the most multiple of challenges. And some of them, they still see me along the road and they still remember me. Very heartening to see that they were doing very, very well. The children were doing very, very well. And I think MSF tells me that their Comlink system now is modeled after what we've done. And so it gives me a lot of satisfaction that what I've done with a group of families, challenging as they were, now is being implemented upstream to help families in rental flats so that we can try to stabilize their lives now and move them into purchase flats hopefully soon enough. And that's why I also introduced Project Dian for the Malay Muslim families, because I believe very strongly that oftentimes it's about the social issues that they're faced with and how we can help them by enhancing their own ability to deal with all the social issues, which they have and they are able to. I have every confidence that every family can make it.
Speaking of the Malay Muslim community, what are your hopes for the community, and what more can be improved?
You know, we are always a works in progress. When people tell me what makes Singapore succeed, I always say we are always a works in progress. We are reinventing ourselves all the time, and we should do that. And that goes with the community also. We are always a works in progress. We should acknowledge and commend ourselves for the improvements we've made. Way back when I was in the university, only 3% of Malays in the university. Today we have a lot more. We barely have about 1 or 2 first-class honours at that time. Today, easily every year we have got 80, 90. We don't have many professionals at that time, doctors, lawyers. Today we have many. And it speaks volume of the success of the Malay Muslim community, and we should be very proud of that. But having said that, there will always be room for us to do better. Because the challenges continue. It's not that we move and everything else remains stagnant. We move and things change, you know. AI just suddenly changed. IT just suddenly changed. So as we move forward, because of the dramatic changes around us, we need to make sure that the community respond also. So what we need to do for the community is to first understand the dynamic and the constant change that's happening around us. Not just around us in Singapore, but in the world. And having done that, then what the community need to respond to that, right up the alley of young children being ready, to young couples being adaptable to change, and mature adults being prepared to upskill themselves. It's a whole ecosystem of rethinking, reprocessing, reinventing ourselves. Gone are the days where we think that we have a iron rice bowl job that will stay forever. That will not happen. So if we think that we have this job and this job will last forever until we retire, that cannot be. So I don't know how much in the community thinks that way, but if there are, we need to move them away from that thinking, move them away and see potential, recognize that there are opportunities out there. If there are those who say, oh, you know, I don't think I can upgrade myself because, you know, I'm too old for it, we have to change that, right? Because that's something that we need to ensure that they understand that if you don't make the effort, we're not going to be able to move, because the resources are there, the opportunities are there. So I think for the community, I'm confident, because I see a lot more young volunteers of very high caliber now stepping forward. When I started up, the numbers are so few to start off in the first place. Today, through MCube, I see many, many professionals, doctors, lawyers, military personnel, uniform group, senior officers, Muslims, Malays, coming forward, stepping forward to do their part, either mentoring young people, either doing projects for us. All the MCube chairpersons are young, successful professionals. 30, 40 years ago, you won't be able to see that. So I'm very, very hopeful, and I'm very confident that the community can succeed because of what I see today. And I see the desire for them to want to give back to the community today. I just do hope that the community respond accordingly and work with the government to see what more can we do in order to advance the community's abilities as well as performance forward.
On that note, given that we just passed the GE, Malay Muslim issues were one of the hot button issues, I think, during the recent elections. So how would you say that the expectations of the community with regard to the representatives in parliament and in government, has this changed over the years, and how do you see this maybe evolving in the future?
I think it's part and parcel of our own development as a society. We are maturing, right? I was 60 years old. You can't say that we are matured, but I think we are maturing, and we are, and the fact that our young people are educated and they are exposed to the world, they're exposed to social media, they're exposed to the world far more and far faster than what we were exposed to previously, and therefore their mind works in a different way. Their view of the world may be very different, and that's why I think politics has to respond accordingly. Politics has to respond to acknowledge that your constituents expect different things for you. Your constituents expect engagement. Your constituents expect explanation. Your constituents expect to be understood, empathized with, and at the same time respected for perhaps divergent views. But at the same time, it requires the politician to be able to then articulate why the decision has to be made in the best interest of Singapore. Now that's the biggest challenge, because you can't please everyone, but at the same time, it is incumbent upon every politician to be able to say, this is why we have to do it this way now. Your views are important. We don't disregard your views. Your views have a lot of rationality, has a lot of basis, but looking at the different circumstances, this is what we think needs to be done today. If things change, we may come back to those views again. Now, that's leadership. Leadership is not easy. Leadership is the ability to convince people of why we need to make those decisions and get their support for it. So whether the Malay-Muslim issues reflect that or not, I think we know the basis for some of these issues. But I think more importantly is the population of Singapore has changed. It has matured. It has shown its ability to engage. And I think that's what Prime Minister Lawrence Wong also recognized when he started the Forward SG exercise. It's really a recognition of the fact that younger Singaporeans are more discerning and would like to have more engagement.
Speaking of that, and just now also you mentioned about the community working together with the government, right? What do you think are some of the frustrations as well as the aspirations of the Malay Muslim community, and are there any new ways in which the government plans to work together or approach these issues within the community, and how can we work together?
I think if we have to acknowledge that the Muslim community has moved forward in terms of the key indicators, economic success, academic success, but I think in terms of identity, a sense of spirituality, we have seen that also. We've seen that the community is a lot more introspective with regards to their identity as Muslims, and they are more aware of the development of Islam, and they do want to do that. And I think we recognize that too. And I think that's how you see development in the religious sector, as it were. I was chairing the committee on the future of Asatiza. I was very honored to be given that opportunity, because for the first time in my career as a politician, I looked at the religious sector. I looked at how we can enhance the profile and the role of our Asatizas, recognizing the fact that the community wants greater leadership, wants competent leadership in the religious sector. And that's what we wanted to do. And the Committee of Future Asatiza, if you look at the work that we've done and the recommendations made, is moving in that direction. It's moving to recognize the important role of the Asatizas to be able to lead and be prepared to deal with challenges of modern days. COVID, for example, we had strong religious leadership to articulate fatwas, guidance that help the community. And I think that is important. Two, we also look at the Azila sector to uplift them. So we talked about recommendations to ensure that their remunerations are recognized as well as improved in relation to others, their peers in a different sector. We also look at how they can contribute into different sectors based on their Islamic credentials. So when we introduced the PCICS, the postgraduate certificate in Islamic studies, we also worked with SUSS, for example, to give them opportunities to learn from modules in a adjacent sector so that they can explore getting into that sector, but with a strong grounding in their religious education that can contribute to that sector. So we want to do that, and that is the precursor to the Singapore College for Islamic Studies, and which is a commitment by the Muslim leadership as well as government to support the establishment of the SCIS. So I think that is one of the emerging aspirations of our Muslim community, and we are responding. And I do encourage the community to engage, the government to engage them too, to see how we can realize this vision, starting with the establishment of the SCIS, and continue to develop a good group and a core group of religious leaders in a community to be able to work together with the other community leaders in bringing the community forward.
Okay, since we're on that note, given you're stepping down from politics and your own background with the Muslim community and with the Committee for Future Asatiza and your social work background as well, do you see yourself taking a role in the Islamic College?
I don't know. I am keeping my options open, as it were, in terms of where I can contribute. If, as I engage the different stakeholders, and if I see there is value for me to contribute, I'll be more than happy to contribute. I think what's important now is really for me to take a step back, reflect on my 25 years of work, spend more time with my family. Although my kids are a lot grown up now, harder to find time with them. I do have more time with my wife, and I treasure that, and I look forward to that. At the same time, reflect on what we've discussed, what I've done, what I could have done differently, and given the new landscape, what I think I can do to contribute. Certainly, my heart is with the community. I'm sure, inshallah, one day my children will have their children, and those young children will be the future leaders of the community. And I do want to have a role in the development of the next generation of our community.
How was your family's, your wife's and your children's reaction when you told them that you will no longer be involved in politics? Because I think I remember you were saying your children were quite emotional last time when they were younger, you know, knowing your sacrifice and all for the country, right? Yeah.
Well, I will be honest to you to say that as a whole family, it was a bittersweet moment when I shared with them my decision. Bittersweet because they knew that it's an end of an era of personal sacrifice and contribution. An end of an era where we have done so much to touch so many lives, and we've seen the lives that we've touched. But the sweet moment is that we get ourselves back. And for them, they get their father, my wife gets her husband back. So they are happy. They're very happy that they're happy for me, actually. That they say that now you can wake up a little bit later, sleep more, that they don't need to worry too much about my health. Because whenever they see me sleeping 4 hours a day, they worry. That makes my wife works very hard to read a lot on all the different kind of vitamins that she can prepare for me on a daily basis to make sure that I remain healthy so that I can do my work. Not that she's going to do anything lesser, but I think to them, apart from having me and time together now, they feel relieved that I can take a break. I think that's really, I see that in them. And while they know my passion, while they know that I would want to continue, but they know that I will continue in other forms, I did tell them also that it is time for me to make way for new blood, people with new perspectives, which is part of the renewal process, which is very important. So as a whole, I think bittersweet. We continue to joke around. Yesterday, I got to see 2 theatre shows on I think first Sunday for after 25 years, I get to see 2 theatre shows in a day, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful. But I think more for me, more wonderful also is that wherever I walk, people just come up to me and say thank you. Nothing can ever give that sense of gratitude that I have to Singaporeans for acknowledging the work that I've done.
Throughout your 25 years as a politician, was there any time where your wife or your kids, question why you're doing this, and I would say maybe encourage you to
retire?
Yeah. Because I know definitely it's not easy. I mean,
it's not easy.
It's not easy for sure.
I think they always ask, can you slow down a little? They acknowledge the fact that my passion runs deep. As a social worker, it runs so deep that every individual that comes my way is an individual who I will spend every ounce of energy to try to respond to. And they know that. And because of that, they say, can you just slow down a little so that you can remain healthy? So in my 25 years, I've had my fair share of emergencies lah. Emergencies as in visit the emergency department lah. So each time that happens, they were very worried. They're very worried. But naughty me, I will behave for a while, take the break, slow down a bit, then went again, So they always reminded me, of those moments. They don't want to lose me. Then of course I will remember those moments, and I cannot be irresponsible and risk my life for them, for my work. And so they will never ask me to stop because they know where the passion is. And they also acknowledge, and when I told them what work I do, and from an Islamic perspective, it's the amanah, the amanah that God gives us. And that amanah is through me, but it's for them too. What work I do that benefits anybody out there, we believe in pahala, it's not for me alone, it's for them too. So I'm like the one carrying it for them too. So, and that's where the support that I get from them. Because as much as they want to do it, they have other commitments too, and they are doing their own fair share. But more importantly, I think that they recognize that. And we work as a family in that sense. We're as a family that we do this because as a family we believe it's important. Of course, I've shared the stories about how my daughter at 14 was devastated when she saw how one of my mentors lost the election, and she cried profusely. And when I asked her, why did you cry when Daddy won the election? She said that, what if that was you? All your hard work. She said that, I don't think it's going to be fair to you. So I kept that in my mind all the time. And when I told my family, I looked at her again, and it's like, okay, You know, that moment didn't have to come, but we are living, I'm living politics on the right note, and we all agree that this is a good time, and they were very supportive of this decision, and we look forward to our vacations now, beyond December. Previously, it was only December that we can have vacation, because usually I go for a short holiday in December. Now we can plan different times of the year to take a break.
Your plans after that, do you plan to retire or continue working? Write a book maybe?
Life begins at 60 lah. So I turned 60 this year. I believe that as we move forward, I've met many seniors out there. I think that retirement is only retiring from the job that you left off, but you don't stop the passion, you don't stop the desire to continue where you started and how you started. It can be in different form, it can be in different capacities, but that should continue, because we have years of experience that we can share with whoever that we come across. We have different perspectives that we can continue to contribute to the country, to the community. So I do not think I will stop what I have been doing, but perhaps in a different capacity. Where and how, I'm just giving myself time for now. Time to just reflect, relax a little bit, and then explore different options, and then see how best I can continue this afterwards.